Welcome aboard this week's podcast of Dudes Dish Disney. Get ready for amazing attractions across America. Beer halls and bar rooms, banquets and beverages, a collection of characters and colleagues.
No cupcakes.
It's Dudes Dishing Disney. This episode of Dudes Dish Disney is sponsored by Magic Vacations. Magic Vacations. Discover the magic of travel. And now your host, the dudes of Dudes Dish Disney.
And welcome to this week's edition of Dudes Dish Disney. Joining us today is our producer and resident tech dude, Jonathan.
What's going on, guys?
Also joining us is our co-host, Bob. He is the true number one Disney dude.
What's going on, dudes?
And I'm Congo Carl, former Jungle Cruise skipper. I'm here to guide you through this week's episode of Dudes Dish Disney. What's up, dudes?
What's going on? Wow, way to start the controversy right away with our other co-host here not being able to join us tonight. And really stirring the pot.
Nothing I don't say to his face. I still have a challenge. Number one dude off needs to be in the future.
Ooh,
maybe make that happen.
Number one dude off.
I'll put my Disney resume against Ryan's any day.
Yeah. So, Bob, we really thank you for joining us in and being a true MVP hero, a true brother in arms, because Ryan obviously isn't worth his weight, which is pretty big. And, he blew us off like last minute. First, we thought he was sick, but he got well enough to go to a Bulls game. So,
literally last night, I had posted a promo promoting the show, and all of a sudden he's like, "Well, guys, I messed up. We can't really do a show." And then, thank God, Bob was in the background, ready and willing to jump in and join us here. So,
cheers, Bob. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, because like I said, Ryan's so useless. On top of the no-show, okay, Ryan designed and dubbed this week's episode. He came up with the concept, which he does a lot. I would say 80% of the concepts Ryan comes up and I do about 15%, and John does about 5%. All right, so that's where we are with the creative talents these days. As far as concepts. So he comes up with this great idea. I'll tell you about tonight's episode, and then turns around and leaves. So, as we start to go through this process, we might want to ask ourselves, what would Ryan do? Or not?
Or who cares?
Right.
That's a fair point too, because who knows? Ryan at this point, tip-off probably just about happening out there in Chicago, so I doubt he's really actually paying attention. And if he is, I'm going to be very surprised, and I'm going to love seeing a comment or again one of us getting a message from him blasting us. So I kind of want to see it happen, but I highly doubt it will.
How have you been, Bob? How's your winter been?
Winter sucks.
Yeah,
I need to move to Florida. I need the warmer weather. Winter. The only good thing about winter is college basketball. Other than that, winter sucks.
You're a big basketball fan?
Huge college basketball fan.
There you go. Who do you like this year?
It's who I like every year, so I'm not a front runner. I am a Duke loyalist through and through, and everybody knows that.
Yeah. It's now our listeners know it. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
They can hate me for it.
Duke is always, somewhere high up in my brackets, right?
Yeah, but they've had some stumble over the past couple of years. But Shire in his second year as head coach, I mean, he's got regular season ACC champs.
Yep.
This whole NAL thing sucks, but that's not what about this episode's about. But I didn't get paid to play basketball in college. I didn't have sponsorships. I didn't have crap. Now these guys are millionaires before they even graduate.
No kidding. Can you imagine? I mean, it's football's the same way too, right? So
yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
We were
what-
just lucky to get a pair of sneakers at the beginning of the year, and if we busted them, we got another pair. But otherwise, we had our uniforms, we had our warm-ups to travel with, and that was it.
I was lucky to be working minimum wage at Walt Disney World. I thought I had died and gone to heaven.
And for a while, it was the same minimum wage for a lot of years. So
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. I thought I had died and gone to heaven, or at least to trailer number 43. But that's a story for another episode.
you all want to know what happened in trailer number 43.
So, anyways, dude. So, yeah. Well, good luck. I hope it pulls through to you. I'll have to consult you with my brackets and see what
Sure.
you think. All right. Well, great. It is March Madness, and in the form of March Madness, let's bring it to our episode. We're not going to bracket out our concepts tonight, but it's another edition of our Imagineering armchair or drawing board, depending on how you perspective it. It's a chance for us to wax poetic and come up with creative ideas of what we'll consider the ultimate theme park of Orlando. And the concept was to take Disney and Universal and SeaWorld and even Busch Gardens and pick out some of the great headliners or great concepts and rebuild them into what you would consider the ultimate theme park for your friends. And, considering that the theme park industry this year, the gate take alone is expected to be $286 billion from that industry, right? Nationwide, it's a big number. And then another 30% on food and merchandise of that number, right? I mean, we're talking about some real money.
Yeah.
We're talking at, like $500 billion, or pretty close to it. So it's an interesting concept. And if you put all the headliners together, if you put all these big things, how would we do it? How would we theme it? How would we organize it? And kind of take that concept. So that was Ryan's concept for tonight. But screw that. We're not going to do that. If he's not here to support it, we're not going to. No, we're going to do it. We're going to do that. We're going to try to attempt to do that and be amusing. And if those are our listeners who have joined us and are coming on board, welcome. Great to have you here live. Feel free to contribute. Feel free to come up with some of your own favorites as we're talking about building ours, and jump into the conversation electronically and say, yeah, that's a great idea. And you could say things like, that's a much better idea than what Ryan would have thought of. Right? So go ahead. So that's the concept. Jonathan, why don't you kick us off? I know you've been doing your homework. You've been thinking about this one for a few weeks. We did thinking about it really for 2 or 3 weeks because we kept delaying the show. Actually, that was Ryan's fault too. But anyways, here we go.
Wait. No, I'm going to throw a little shade back at you because it was partially your fault too. Because I think we had one scheduled, and then you completely forgot as well that you had a conflict there too. So,
but I didn't. I said I could multitask.
That's true. That is true. I will give you that.
But anyway,
I've had less than
I've seen
24
you,
hours.
Jonathan. I've seen you multitask on this show, Jonathan. Jonathan will perform his day job while he's doing the show live, which is pretty impressive. You don't have that going on tonight, do you, John?
No, thank God there's none of that going on today. I'm very fortunate that I actually got a rare Wednesday off on my schedule with everything going on in the world of broadcast sports and all that fun stuff that everything entails. I can't say the same for the rest of the week and going forward for a while, but thank God I got a little reprieval today. So which worked really well because I was able to get a lot that needed to get done around the house and all that fun stuff for once. So thank God. Would have liked to take a nap, but we all know how that happens. So
all right. So kick us off, John. What would be the beginnings of building your ultimate Orlando theme park?
So with this kind of concept in mind, again, the great theme parks of not just Orlando, but of anywhere really become coaster centric, where you've got some of the world's best and the world's tallest, fastest, longest, doing weird, crazy things that no one else has done, very inventive, doing things that people just look at and be like, nope, no way, nope, I'm walking away from this. Let's not go there. Let's not even attempt this. So with that being said, the first one I'm throwing out that needs to be on anything that we ever do is Velocicoaster. Just being the fact that it is constantly ranked number one in almost every category, if not one, number two.
It got the golden. It got the golden award again for this year for number one.
Yeah, it that thing just it packs a punch out of any ride anywhere for anybody. Like, if you can get on that ride, get on it. It's intimidating, it's intense, it does things that make you go, what the heck did I just ride? But man, it's worth a ride, and it makes you want to go back. It's one that any park absolutely needs to have.
The only reason I ever got on it, MVPs are the only reason I ever got on it.
Agreed. One of our clients was actually the reason that I rode the ride with Carl. I got to dig the photo up somewhere, but you can literally see certain explicit words coming out of my mouth in the photo, which weren't very accurate at the time. I think I probably said a certain word at least probably 30 to 40 times on that ride, going through some of the elements, because I knew what I was coming and knew what to expect. But man, you take those elements, you really don't expect them because you're very disorientated at some parts of that ride. So,
and as a witness to that event, because it was my first ride too with Jonathan, I will validate what he just told you and say that his enunciation of curse words at 60 miles an hour are excellent.
I've got to throw this comment out here. Thanks to my wife. My 3-year-old apparently is watching right now. So let's keep the language clean here. But my 3-year-old clearly wants to go on this ride really bad right now.
You ain't meeting the height requirements yet, son.
Hey Finn, dude, how you doing, buddy? Hey Finn. All right.
The worst part of that ride is because when you do the rolls and you don't have a harness, you feel like you could fall out because the only thing holding you in is that lap thing around your legs. So when you do that final Brontosaurus roll at the end, that's like done.
Bob, who went on with you on your first ride?
It was Nicole got me on. She said she had already ridden it, and she said, "You haven't ridden it yet," and we were there for the retreat.
Yeah,
and everybody else, and I was having FOMO, and I'm like, I'm going to be that person. It was me, her, Jocelyn, and one other person, and one of the Morris brothers. And boy, the things that were coming out of my mouth were when you hit the second where you go from 45 to 75 to go up to the top. As we're going up to the top, I'm like, I hate you guys, I hate you guys, I hate you guys. And then we're going over the top, and I'm like, wait, if I die, I don't want the last word to be hate. So I'm like, I love you guys, and we're going all the way down.
Great, that's excellent. Yeah, and then I had the pleasure of the next day going on it for Ryan's first ride and sitting next to him. And so what I did, because I'd been on it once, is I had my head turned and I literally watched Ryan and watched the words come out of his mouth, you know. I think the favorite part of everybody, the first time you do it, and the sensation you try to describe it, is when you do that top hat in that lap bar, it's kind of a reverse weightlessness you feel. It's, you know, when you go in a normal roller coaster, you have that weightless and you're up out of your seat. This is kind of a reverse weightlessness where you're falling out of your seat and then it pushes you back in, right?
Yeah.
And it's an incredible sensation to experience for the first time. But anything, we could talk all night about Velocicoaster, but we won't, because this is the crust of one of the best things we're going to put in our ultimate theme park. Bob, why don't you throw something out there that you're going to put in that theme park?
Well, I'm going to stay in Universal right now, even though I'm a Disney person, and I'm going to put Hagrid's Magical Motorbike TM Unlike Velocicoaster, that one's a long coaster with multiple accelerations backwards, and then there's the part where I'm not going to ruin it for people who haven't ridden it yet, where something happens and you're doing something else and then you're moving forward again. And I've had the pleasure of doing it on the bike and doing it in the car. Different experiences completely. But I just kept looking for those white strips in, because when you see the white strips in the middle of the thing, that's when you're going to start accelerating again. But it's phenomenal, and I'm glad to hear that they're considering now putting it on the Express Pass. So it's about time. I guess they're going to do it. Epic. So.
And I think with the demand with Epic opening up, that they'll be able to do that, right? They'll be able to take that pressure, will be relieved, and I think that will work out nicely.
I mean, it doesn't go upside down. It doesn't go anything. It just goes fast, and you have that sense of, I'm on a bike. Why I shouldn't be doing this?
Yeah.
And the theming is so spot on to the storylines and everything. And there's, words that you hear and things that you hear that are lifted out of the movies, as is so much of the Harry Potter lands. If you're fans and have read the books and seen the movies, it literally does come to life there. And that's certainly on that list of great things. So, keeping with the roller coaster theme, and to me, theming is important. One of the questions I was going to ask you, John, is like, if you put Velocicoaster into the ultimate theme park, would you keep that theme, or would you take the ride and retheme it to something else?
So this is what I was trying to think of. I'm actually glad you thought about this, because I was starting to kind of think of different ways to theme everything, and I think that theme could play well in another area. The only thing is, you couldn't really keep that IP unless you have some weird hodgepodge of all the IPs across the board that we all know, which would never actually truly happen. But that dinosaur theme, it could really work. It could work well across the board anywhere you put that, with that theming, and just changing the name, changing some of the elements of some of the dinosaurs or anything like that. That could really work. Someone could literally turn a copycat of this somewhere else, and basically just slightly retheme it, and it would fit really well somewhere else.
It's interesting, right, to approach it that way.
I gotta stop you, Carl, because our friend has decided to join the conversation here.
Not that I know of. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know what he's
referring to. They can make sure you fit on it, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Have another pancake. All right. So here's the thought that kind of crossed my mind as I've been around a little longer than you guys and daydreaming. My thought is, if I were to take the Adventureland from the Magic Kingdom of the 1980s, what does that mean? Well, it's the Adventureland of today without Aladdin's ride and some really good themed shops that are appropriately themed to the area, right? If I could take that Adventureland, right, and then combine that with the opening day of the Morocco Pavilion at Epcot and wrap that around Animal Kingdom's two lands of Africa and Asia. Okay. I now start to have this kind of concept, consistent theme, right? And then if I really wanted to kill this, I would take components, about half the components of the 1990s Busch Garden, the Dark Continent overlay theme, what it was around then, when it was really deeply cored to, the Serengeti, the Congo Falls, Zanzibar. It had some really tight themes in there. I could start to build this great theme park, all consistent with one themes. Now, it's not the ultimate, because wouldn't have some of the best rides, but it would have consistency in the theme to put all of those places belong there. And of course, when I thought that, I started thinking, okay, what else belongs together? Do you put Future World with Tomorrowland and make that a park? Do you, there's all these reoccurring themes that you have in different places that if you combine them, you could have these consistent themes throughout. But in my idea was to put that kind of ultimate dark continent African, Asian jungle theme, if you will, and then throw in, King Kong just to screw with every 2-year-old that ever decided to go to the park. And I would do that way. So when Ryan introduced this concept, my head was going through some of my daydreaming of doing that in Orlando. But this one is really taking the best of the best and putting together. And so that's the thought is, would you take some of that and retheme it? In this case, would you retheme Hagrid's to dinosaurs, or would you retheme, the Velocicoaster to Harry Potter, right? How would you start to build upon that? Because I'll throw one in that's going to also be a wrench on it, but the best, the ultimate ride for me is from a roller coaster, is Expedition Everest. Right. I mean, again, the theming again there is immaculate. The story is great. It was the first surprise coaster with this backward turn that now Hagrid's does, I think, even better from a special effects standpoint than Expedition Everest. But how do you not love Joe Rohde and what he did there? So, and of course,
if damn Yeti fixed,
yeah, that's the caveat, Bob. You nailed it. If we do it.
I think that's the one thing holding this ride back is if that Yeti was fixed, I think this would have probably been mentioned. I know it's still fairly young in the show, but I think that would have been mentioned a little bit sooner. If that Yeti would have been fixed, that effect, if that works, man, that is an effect. That is something that will catch you. But I'm sorry, the Disco Yeti, it's a nice effect, but it only does so much. It's
not a nice effect. What are you talking about? It sucks.
You didn't sense my sarcasm there? Come on now.
And the bird doesn't even come down anymore, which is a little.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
When that bird would come down, you'd know that was just about the time you were going to rumble and then head backwards.
Yeah. There's a lot of lost. That's another show, right? Lost effects that no longer work.
Yeah.
Across the parks. So we've got 3 decent thriller roller coasters to start off with. Every park's going to have a good mix of things. But Bob, what else would you put in the ultimate theme park? What's on your list of your favorites?
Well, I think, Rise of the Resistance is an experience. It's not just a ride. It's not a roller coaster, but it does have some thrills to it. Now that they're fixing the cannon piece again, that kind of makes it more interesting. But it is. It took me a bit to realize how the same door we went in and we've spun, and it's or how we're going to get out of the jail section. It really has a little something for everybody. Whether you're in, I've been on it with people who don't love Star Wars, but they can appreciate the ride and how it goes, and then they have questions about Star Wars afterwards.
Right.
So it's definitely by far so much better than Smuggler's Run. Smuggler's Run sucks unless your party is in control of the ship, because otherwise it sucks.
I will agree with that. I think, what was it? The first time I ever rode Smuggler's Run, we were the engineer, and I'm like, okay, I'm literally punching a bunch of buttons and watching the movie video happen here, and I'm like, okay.
You might as well be at work, John. You might as well be at work. That's what you do. Punch buttons and watch what happens.
Well,
John, the first time I rode it, we were the engineers as well. It was a 5-year-old girl from some South American country and her father. And all she did was scream and not even look at him. And he's filming her. So nobody's flying the ship.
Oh,
so we're hitting everything. And she's screaming more. I'm like, this is hell. So that's why I love the coasters more, because those kids aren't going to be on them. And if they're screaming, it's supposed to be screaming.
Yeah, I agree. The ultimate theme park should have no kids.
You know what? In all honesty, we should have an adult night. And any theme park should have an adults only night. Because who's paying for it? Not the kids.
That's right.
Good point.
All you kids who've joined tonight's podcast, pay attention to this. All right? Get out, break the piggy bank, and take your mom and dad to the park.
Use your tooth fairy money and invest in
and there's our promo soundbite of the week.
Gosh darn kids, get off my lawn. Anyway,
Wait, did a role reversal just happen there?
I think I'm channeling Carl. It's disgusting, but fun.
That happens to Ryan once in a while too. So that's why you are the true number one Disney dude, is because it happened to you much sooner. It took Ryan 5 years. So
I feel like Patty Hearst, and I'm suddenly I'm the hostage that I'm taking over.
Oh.
For all you younger viewers, Patty Hearst was somebody. Never mind.
So,
but yeah, that's a great experience.
It is great experience. So, that's such an impressive ride to include.
And it rides on magnets.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And who doesn't love magnets?
Okay.
They tend to attract the right attractions,
Not unless they're. Never mind. Okay, moving on.
All right. Next up, John, add something to our ultimate theme park.
So I'm trying to think of something to add that's not a coaster, but man, again, it's just coasters that are literally putting people through the turnstile is really what it is. It's really what it is. One I'll throw in there that deserves a mention in here, which I'm pretty sure that the three of us can agree on, is a definite. And I'm heading back over to Islands of Adventure here with a somewhat classic one, and Spider-Man. Because it is an older ride. While it might not be a roller coaster, what that ride does with the 3D and everything else, while it is pretty old, it's had some updates over the years and everything, but it definitely still is a very, very good ride that needs to be mentioned and really considered when you're looking at any theme park, because it definitely pushes the limits of what a ride should be, especially a dark ride.
But isn't Transformers basically the same ride?
So that's a great question, Bob, to bring up, and that's the debate, right? That was the initial one, and so many others have been replicated off of that, right? The Harry Potter
one,
in
the same franchise, same theme park area.
Yeah, and so you're saying, okay, they've whoops, they've done it again. So, but that's, I think, the beauty of why John described why that's such a classic and holds up, is that not only was the original, but it's timeless, and that a lot of the special effects and pluses and things that were done in that were not brought over to the other rides.
True.
Right. And so that's what makes the combination of not only the screens with the 3D glasses, which not all of them have, and the special effects that are combined, that's the three things, right? And I think when you put those elements together, that makes that very popular. So I would agree that kind of thing, it certainly was on my list for one of the things to include. So I'm glad you mentioned it, John. If we're going to spin into dark rides, which Bob kicked us off with, I'm going to go really bold on something, and neither one of you can agree with it, because you'll have no point of reference. But I've had the pleasure to be exposed from some things with my new employer, who shall be nameless, and I'm going to predict that. And I haven't seen this firsthand, but I've seen the entire show, and I've seen it through people who are in the know. And I'm going to predict that the new Monsters ride at Epic should be in our ultimate theme park.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with you. I beforehand, I hadn't even mentioned this to either one of you. Our business development manager, the folks up here in New England, we had a regional training for Universal last week, and he actually had the pleasure to ride that ride. One of the first people to ride that ride, and he basically flat out told us, "Yeah, it's something that it has a lot of similarities to a lot of things, but it's so different, so much better than anything ever created that you've got to ride it." Is basically what he told us. He didn't give us many spoilers because he couldn't, but he said he's ridden it, and it's an absolute must.
Yeah, and I got a few spoilers from people who have attended it, ridden it, and actually have seen some things. But so Monsters Unchained is what we're talking about. First of all, if you go back to the beginning of time with the original amusement park and dark rides, they were haunted houses, right?
Yeah.
With people like Frankenstein and Dracula, right? That's what this is. This is the ultimate of the ultimates. So it's going back to those grassroots, and it's exposing on that. It's got the Kukla arm system that's been new and improved and won't throw out your back or cause you to be nauseous like Harry Potter's journey is, right? Forbidden Journey.
The worst.
Right. So that's part of the combination. It has, I believe, I might be wrong, 38 first tier 10,000 audio animatronics. So that's full body movement, right? That kind of level of tiers. And the people that I've talked to have said they are so past anything that's in any park anywhere in Orlando that it's amazing. When they do introduce screens and backgrounds, it's just a subtle thing. It's not, kind of a in your face like a 3D thing. It complements the rest of the attraction. And you are going to be shocked on how many times they get you, right? Yeah. The old jump scare, but it's not a jump scare. It's an audio animatronic, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty amazing. So I'm predicting that we put Monsters Unchained somewhere in our ultimate theme park.
Yeah, I think people are going to underestimate that and think that Harry Potter is going to be the big winner of the different areas of Epic. I think the Dark Universe is going to be a very strong presence. Nicole and I were at the Universal Symposium in December, where they were basically highlighting everything Carl was talking about, and it was just as somebody who's born and raised Disney, it was so hard to fathom that something so state of the art was coming from another house of amusement that's really going to just kill it.
Hey, look, and if we were building the ultimate amusement park and we wanted to limit it to the talented Imagineers that have worked at Disney, a lot of that has to do, as we've talked on other shows, about finance and budget, right? Yep. The expression, take a look on what's going on with the Oriental Land Company, right? And I compare attraction to attraction in the U.S. parks to what they have, and even their own versions of that. And it's just that they expanded the budget by another 40-50% to give people that creativity to make the ride a little longer, enhance the effects, whatever that is, and said, here's your budget, go. And that's what Imagineers want, right? They don't want, Walt never said, I don't want to hear about the numbers, Roy. We got to make it this way, right? It doesn't work unless we do it the right way. So we've got some dark rides now in our ultimate theme park. What else should we include, gentlemen?
Well, I think we need to include Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I think that was a game changer. Everybody was like, oh, they're going to put a roller coaster in Epcot. It's not educational, blah, blah, blippity bloop. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Everybody loves it. Now that they got rid of the virtual queue, it's like 140-minute wait average to get on it. And, I think it's and it's got, who's going to get their song they want to hear. But the ultimate thing is the backward launch is just fantastic. The fact that the cars, they set the bar for other rides going forward now. So you see other rides that are coming. They're going to have those autonomous moving vehicles, even in Epic. And I think that, that's an incredible ride that's worth the wait every time. Because it's also long. So it's like, okay, you're waiting in line. Velocicoaster's over in like in a minute 30. This one, you're at least getting about 4 minutes of a ride in. So it's like, okay, maybe it's worth that longer wait. But it's great.
I look at. I think that the theme and the cue is half the show. That whole setup is just amazing. You know, walking through there and in the pre-show and all of that too. So I think that adds to that experience. That's obviously one you can't change the theme on if you were trying to fit them. So, hey, John, we appreciate it. John's saying, yeah, we should include that in the attraction.
Yeah, it's definitely one that it's worth riding. While I know for a lot of people, the motion sickness on that one, it can definitely be one that really gets you, especially if you stare at the nice object in the middle. If you're going down through the loop, which not recommended by anybody, but
what object is that? Are we looking at? Is that a giant planet or a pressed ham? What are we looking at?
Oh no! Don't even,
I was not expecting that one from you there.
That ride is only on ships where you get the pressed hams.
Okay,
that's on the high seas where it should stay.
We've got to be in international waters to be able to make that one happen. So
all right, okay, just checking because people wonder why I don't go on cruises, and there's your answer.
The things you'll see.
So we've got a lot of roller coasters here. I think this park will be successful despite its ups and downs that we've introduced to the. And I think that we can probably win an argument here on what the best roller coaster is.
Well, I think you got to look to SeaWorld for a great roller coaster, the Mako, which is 200 feet tall, goes 73 miles per hour, and has 7 inversions. Nobody really thinks SeaWorld as this, magnitude of roller coasters, but they have 3 bangers. They have that. They have the Mana coaster with 3 inversions, and then they have the new Pipeline surf coaster that came online in 2023, where you stand up like you're on a surfboard, and it goes 60 miles per hour. Now, for me, I don't know if I would fit on it because I'm taller, but and it does have 1 pipeline turn, but the seat, it kind of moves with you. But I might have to wear Depends on that one and then take them off afterwards. Because if I shit myself, I can't stay the whole day in the park, so I'll just free ball afterwards. But it's one of those that would probably scare and as I get older, these newer roller coasters need to come out sooner than later, because as I get older, my sense of equilibrium will be off, and I might not want to do them anymore. And you'll find me on Dumbo instead.
I'm pretty sure Carl will join you by that point in life. So don't worry, you won't be alone, I don't think.
No, I think I'll still continue to ride roller coasters over Dumbo. That's not roller coasters are not. Look at that's part of it. You'll see me. You can't get me on the teacups, but you'll get me on every roller coaster that's out there, as long as they let me on. But yeah, there's some certainly notable roller coasters that we've included here, and we've got to. I think we have to throw a little respect over to Busch Gardens, because for the longest time they were outdoing themselves with coaster after coaster after coaster. And there's a lot that are my favorites, but I think everyone's gonna put their eyes on the big wooden coaster there as the number one to add to the list.
What are you what are you talking about? Iron Gwazi?
Iron Gwazi, yeah.
Yeah, not the best picture there, clearly, but I believe it was just around COVID. Think that they redesigned that a little bit and turned that into that hybrid, which, as you can see in that photo, I mean, just look at that initial drop on that thing. That thing is nuts. It's probably somewhat semi-comparable to Velocicoaster. I mean, I think a little bit, unfortunately, because it is Busch Gardens, it doesn't get the popularity that Universal gets with Velocicoaster, but every video, unfortunately, I have not personally had the opportunity to ride Iron Gwazi, but every POV and anyone I've ever talked to says that thing delivers the same intense punch that Velocicoaster delivers, just in a totally different way with the style of coaster that it is, with that hybrid coaster. That's its own beast in itself.
Yeah, look at, I mean, and yeah, I think you got to throw. It's amazing. There's not. I know why there's not more in Florida. I mean, but what's a real classic ultimate park without a wooden coaster components? I know that's a hybrid and everything, but I mean, you got to that's where it all began, right? So,
Sure.
But even still, the original version of that, I mean, they kept a lot of the elements. They just redesigned it. It has a ton of the old elements built in that ride still. So it was a makeover. It was a makeover to make it last longer, but it definitely still has the original flair to it. There's no doubt about that. So I completely see where you're coming from with that.
everywhere they've done that, by the way, that technique, and it's more at places like Busch Gardens and Six Flags where they've done it. It's been a win. You know, they certainly did it up here in New England at Six Flags, and when they did that. So I think that's a win, and that's a great, different kind of feel and experience than every other coaster we've named. I would put that in the category of a feeling difference, like Velocicoaster makes you feel different, right? And that would be great. So look at, you know what's interesting? It's Florida. It's hot. We're building this ultimate theme park, and no one yet has suggested any kind of a water ride.
That's true.
You end up with a wet ass for the rest of nobody wants swamp ass in these water rides. I mean, some of the best water rides, if you're going to get wet, are in, Universal. You can go on whatever, that Popeye and Bluto one, where you're going to get soaked no matter what. And that's why they have those giant sized people dryers, which are awesome.
Right. So we agree, in our ultimate theme park, no one's going to have a swamp ass unless they're Shrek.
That was quick.
That's good. I'll give you that.
Okay.
I'm impressed. I think that, we're looking at ultimate theme parks and looking at things that are filler rides. That you were talking about Florida and it's hot. So, something like the Bourne Stunt Show, I think is a good piece. I mean, that thing is pretty impressive.
Good. Yeah, that's
pretty impressive. And then if you've ever been in it when it's broken down and the person comes out to explain the screen when you're not doing anything, and they said, if we took this screen up to the highest point, you'd all be blind. We'd make you blind for the rest of your life because of the brightness of the screen. And then for a while, a lot of people don't realize what's real and what's not real in that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of like going out with us drinking. You don't realize what's real and not real at some point in time.
Oh God. Getting back on topic here, one thing I'll add to Bob's comment about Bourne is, what was it? Last October, I was down there. We were down in the area for a family member's wedding, and I ended up going to Universal with my parents because they both want to see all the Harry Potter stuff, and they're not down there like I am and all that. I ended up taking them in there because obviously the Florida heat, it had a moment. Now my parents are a little bit older; they're in their mid 70s, so I'm like, all right, you guys need to take a break. You did you kind of did your own thing. Well, I did my own thing a little bit, but I could tell my dad was tired and all that. I'm like, all right, let's go watch the show. My dad's like, what the hell am I watching? Why are you bringing me some stupid theater show? Blah 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 blah. He had no idea what it was. Now he's a huge fan of Bourne, which I knew because I've seen him watch the shows, the movies and everything constantly. I'm like, all right, you're gonna like this. It's literally based on the whole Bourne series and everything. We get in there, we start watching it. He's looking at it like, okay, this is pretty cool. He's like, is that all set pieces or is that? I'm like, no, that's mostly screens. That's mostly super high res screens that you're seeing with super high refresh rates and everything. He's like, oh. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, just wait. And this was only in the first 5 minutes and everything. And then everything kind of came to the climax. I'm like, yep, that is why that show is that good and why I kind of wanted you to see that. Because it has some really cool elements that you don't expect. So, but
all right, I think this is coming together nicely. Of course, we can't, it's the best of the best, really, the top hit list. We haven't wrapped it out with a consistent theme, but sometimes these things are done so well you really can't. So, is
Yeah.
there any other headliners that we've missed that we should include in the Ultimate Orlando Park?
So one thing I'll definitely throw out that a lot of the comments have definitely thrown out is I'm kind of surprised no one's mentioned it here is Flight of Passage. That definitely needs to be put in here. I think there's been I will say there's definitely been a cry across the comments for that one.
Okay.
There's been multiple comments by Christy here that is big into that one, as well as John that has been begging for that one to show up on this list. So we would be pretty dumb if we didn't include that here with the outcry for that one. So
excellent. That's I mean, there's another one that was its first of its kind to take that screen that many of us have experienced and then tilt it on its side, basically, right? The first time you experience that kind of attraction, if you've gone in to witness that screen, it's typically in a theater style, right? But to turn it on its side and throw your nose right up against it so it surrounds you was fairly unique. And then the special effects are great. The resolution's great. Definitely one of those attractions when it first came out. Everyone was riding multiple times because there was so much to see and so much to do.
Yeah.
Oh, even still, I think by this point I've probably ridden it a dozen plus times over the years. It's still one that's worth going, and you catch things that you didn't expect, especially with the additions of the new movies that have come out and the new movies to come out. There's the little hidden Easter eggs here and there that they've added in there.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, where they're adding things in there that keeps it a little bit, I want to say timeless, but keeps it relevant. Like you're still seeing things that are like, okay, all right, I saw that in so-and-so movie. Okay, this is good. It's not just the original, which is great.
And it'll be interesting to see how they build upon it when they build the ride in Disneyland around Avatar, around the second and third movies. So, they're obviously going to top that. It's like, hold my beer. We're going to do this now and make it better. So, does the Ultimate Theme Park have to have a nighttime spectacular? Like, would we throw Fantasmic in there to end the
Why
night?
wouldn't we, Bob? Because you are the true #1 Disney dude. Of course you put it in there.
Hey, it costs them $1 million plus a night to do it. So, it is a spectacular. You got fireworks, you got characters, you got fire, you got dragons. At least in Florida, the dragon doesn't burn itself like California does. But, hey, listen, one of the highest paid who knows who one of the highest paid actor performers in Fantasmic is?
I know you're about to tell us.
It is the Little Mermaid when she's on the back of the steamboat, because she can't leave when the fireworks and all go off. So they have to throw a fire retardant tarp over her, and she has to sit under a tarp until the whole show's over so she doesn't get caught on fire by accident.
Last Friday, Lent started, and I went to my first fish fry, and you just reminded me that, Ariel would be delicious this season.
If you start singing Les Poissons, we're out. We're out. If this was not, if we didn't have kids watching, there's a lot more that could be said.
Absolutely.
Oy.
Oh God. And I'm quite happy that we're almost 50 minutes into the show, and it lasted that long before we almost went off the rails there.
All right. So look at any other you brought us some good things. Is there anything else our guests said that we're missing, or is half of what they're saying just trash that we won't repeat?
I mean, the things they're saying about you, that's the problem.
Okay.
But one thing I'll say that's been brought up a few times here that we haven't actually talked about, that especially in a theme park, I mean, we got to mention a little bit, is a little bit with some of the food and everything. Like we got to mention that. We got to try to dabble a little bit into that, because again, we are the dudes here. We do talk about food and drink, and we haven't included that one bit in the show.
Let's go. Let's throw in a bar. Let's throw in a restaurant. What are we doing?
Or let's throw in just staples: Dole Whip and butterbeer. Oh, okay.
Dole Whip and butterbeer. There you go. Right.
But I'm not.
Also, I have to just because it is Ryan here, so I gotta include him somehow.
Just shut him down. Shut him down. Tech dude. Shut him down.
Clearly, he's paying attention, so I'm waiting for the next comment. But
Well, Ryan's waiting for me to say that, if you're going to do Dole Whips, and if you're going to do, yes, I can. Yes, I can. If you're going to do Dole Whips, and if you're going to do butterbeer, there's only one great place that you should serve them. And that would be on the deck of Aunt Polly's porch and restaurant in the middle of Tom Sawyer Island. The ultimate theme park has got to have a beautiful river with a riverboat in it. And,
oh God, here it comes.
And Tom Sawyer, and it's got to have right in the middle to kind of ease all the chaos, a beautiful river running right through it that you could just have a wonderful time on, and sit on the. All right, you know what?
Hey, John.
Figgy
John.
boy. Hey, Figgy boy.
Yeah.
All right.
Start playing.
You're next. Ryan's off the show, and then you're going to be next, you smart guy. Okay.
I'm really glad I made that graphic just in that sense that I knew you might go start jumping on that soapbox again here. So
I think Dole Whip is so you're going Food Star, right, rather than the restaurant. Let's throw. We didn't plan this, but off the cuff, let's pick a bar you'd throw in.
Cava Tequila.
Yep, that's definitely a must there.
So Cava Tequila is the bar you're putting in the ultimate theme park.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I like it. John, you're saying that too?
Cava's up there. This is right on the spot. It's hard because there's a bunch of really good places.
I'm putting Jock Lindsay's in. Sorry.
But that's not in the theme park. That's
that's the problem. Is there's a million restaurants that make sense in spring.
But if I'm building also the theme park, I'm taking stuff from Orlando and putting it in.
It's also your show. You could do whatever the flip you want.
Thank you, Paul.
You are the Wizard of Oz. You are building the Emerald City.
Let it go. It's wicked. All right, now we got a couple of bars. How about a formal sit-down restaurant? We got the snack food, Bob, but why don't you guys, what would you put in the formal? I mean, if you're gonna make me pick a bar that's outside the theme park, and I have to pick one, there's certainly a couple of potential ones that we could throw in the mix. Yeah, Christy. Yeah, thank you.
That's a very, very
that's the winner
right there.
That's the winner. The Nomad Lounge, and that might be the winner for the sit-down restaurant right next door too, is Tiffin's, right?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal meal.
If you wanted to do that too, but yeah, throw out a sit-down restaurant or that you'd love to have. I mean. We got a lot of roller coasters, so be careful what you put on your plate.
Yeah, my gut honestly goes right back to my personal favorite. Again, it's not in the theme parks, but it is in Springs. It's definitely going to be Homecoming. I mean, that's probably not the best decision to do before riding any of these rides for obvious reasons, but I mean, that's a phenomenal meal anytime you get that meal. So,
yeah, I can see that.
We've eaten there more times than we can count at this point, and I think that meal is a great meal to steady yourself before you go out drinking. A nice, good, solid base.
Well, it's the restaurant sells moonshine, for Pete's sakes. Come on,
yeah, it's a good starter. Yeah. I mean, you've also got Raglan. I mean, you can't go wrong there.
Ryan's not here, John. Ryan's not here.
I'm defending that decision for Ryan because it's not just his pick, but we know it'd be Ryan's pick.
We also just opened a new bar outdoor bar for Raglan too that just opened in time for St. Patrick's Day.
A second outside bar?
Yeah.
I guess they're expecting that really large demand this year.
Oh,
Well,
it's standing room only. It's crazy to get in on St. Patrick's Day there.
absolutely.
That, and believe it or not, Epcot is very busy on St. Patrick's Day.
That's not a surprise by any means.
Yeah, so that's where they're going. So Bob, have you got one?
When I think of restaurants in Disney, the good restaurants, I don't automatically go to theme parks. So,
Right.
it's more the hotel based. I mean, I would go to Topolino's. I would, I go Narcoossee's, things like that if I want. But that's what you do after you're done at the day of the theme park and you want to have a nice drink and a good meal and just sit back and relax and, recharge your batteries. But, but if you want to eat, I mean, definitely, have one of the Ultimate Theme Park have a food and wine festival or a flower and garden festival or something like that, where you just eat your way around the park and have really good bites for, a good price and have drinks that go along with it.
Yeah. And you could finish it off with Ariel and chips. So,
and some tartar sauce.
Don't forget the tartar sauce.
Yeah, can never. But I mean, really, you think about it in theme park, people are like, do we want to take our time away from the attractions to spend an hour and a half and have a sit down meal? Most people know. So the grab and go stuff is the stands are more up their alley, and what's better than like Epcot's Wine and Food Festival for that?
Yeah. I understand, and I know people are inclined to that, but when I'm in Epcot, I have 3 squares a day in there.
You are the outlier though.
I am the outlier. I do a sit down breakfast in France, and then do pick a dinner and a lunch at 2 sit downs too. Whether it's Canada or the beer garden or Japan or
Beer garden with Carl is a good time. I will say
that is definitely a good time. I will say, Bob, I forget, were you with us?
Yeah, fantasy football.
You were with us both times.
I was the one that encouraged Katie to go out there and dance with Carl.
That's right. I forgot about. Yes, that's right.
I have that on video.
Folks,
there we go.
We will get that from Bob, and we'll be posting that later. Don't worry.
The ultimate dance.
That is a good core memory, as they would say in Inside Out. A good core memory.
That was a good day.
That was a great day.
All right. So
I think we got to mention that we haven't mentioned that our friend John mentioned here is Mythos. We cannot forget to mention that one too. That's a phenomenal one right there.
But do you think their sign, which comes and goes every once in a while, the #1 theme park restaurant? I think that's BS. I want to know.
It is. Nomad Lounge is one at the last 3 years.
Right. So I want to know the source, because one minute the sign is up, the next minute the sign is down. It's hot.
I think it's just a market. I think it's just
so there was a website called the Theme Park Insider or the Theme Park Explorer that was before we were into apps and handheld. It was just a website, right? They initially had a voting session and won that award when it did. But you're right, Bob. By now, it's got to be almost 15 years ago when it was initially won. Right. And it just kind of hung on, and then for no good reason.
It's like it's a beauty queen from 1971 still wearing her sash like it counts for shit.
Now you're talking about Trailer 43 again. Okay, so so yeah, that's it. That's also ran Mythos, but Tiffin's has won that award for that website, or whatever's replaced it. So this has been a lot of fun. I think we put together an ultimate theme park. Is there anything you think we've missed anywhere before we call it an evening?
I don't think so. I mean, unless we really want to start throwing in some of the things to come, but I don't really think that's fair in this. It's just to what's coming soon. Like we mentioned a little bit with Epic. The one thing I got to say that deserves an honorable mention here is definitely Stardust Racers. I mean, that in any park, even though there's been very few people that have ridden that, everything that's come out with positive reviews on that.
What?
It's the coaster that's in the middle of Epic.
Okay. Thank you.
So at night, it's not
gorgeous. It's a gorgeous. Yeah. It's
at night. Only the coaster itself will be lit. Not the rest of the ride, so it'll look like shooting stars.
Yeah, it is impressive, everything you've seen about it. I can't wait to experience all of that. Yeah, I think you're right, John. That would be a good one. For a moment there, I thought you were going to go sideways and do your, one stupid pick.
No, I'm not doing the stupid draft picks. Don't worry, not in this show.
Well, and if we're going to look at Epic, I mean, looking towards Epic, and I think they're going to go beyond with the new Ministry of Magic ride too, because they're going to just take it up a notch.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be nothing but short of great. Hopefully,
we'll go. And who's to say? Maybe Epic becomes the ultimate theme park on its own. We'll see.
NBC Universal's loving you for saying that, Carl. Your check is in the mail, Carl.
Well, with that in mind, Bob, thank you so much for taking over. You really have done a great job.
Always a pleasure.
And Ryan predicts that, this may not be the last time he bails, and we have to lean on some other talent. And, Ryan, just keep throwing it out in the ether, and Bob will have your seat permanently. It's fine, But I really appreciate you jumping in, and you always give such a great contribution. And to all of our listeners and out there who followed along, thank you so much for your input, because we can't do these things without you. And we look forward to doing that again. And until we do experience the ultimate Orlando theme park, later, dudes.
Later, dudes.
Later, dudes.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Dudes Dish Disney. Please check us out on social media. On Facebook at Dudes Dish Disney. On Instagram at Dudes Dish Disney. On X at Disney_Dish. Please check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe at Dudes Dish Disney. Please visit our sponsor, Magic Vacations, at magicvacations.net. More than just a travel agency, Magic Vacations has over 60 Magic Vacation planners committed to bringing you white glove concierge service. Using a Magic Vacation planner allows you to spend more time making memories and less time worrying about the details. For all of your Disney, Universal, cruise, and global travel, go to magicvacations.net. Magic Vacations. Discover the magic of travel.